Good morning, welcome to SimWorld today on this July 24th edition. We are audio only today. We'll be back on camera before you know it. I'm joined as I am every Wednesday by Jason Campbell, JK. Good morning, Jason. How are you?
I'm great, Marsh. How are you? I've been watching The Boys season 4. That finale came out last week. Bit bummed that the season's done with, but it was absolutely worth the wait. So that's what's been pretty new in my life. And I got to talk to Monty Parson yesterday. That went way better than I could have imagined. So quick shout out Monty Parson.
So I've been asking, well, ask Siege this. I don't think I'd be on it, but the Olympics start Friday. So if you could be you could compete in one Olympic sport, what would it be?
I've always found the javelin to be really cool.
So you would compete in the javelin. All right, that's the answer for Jason. Jason on the javelin and Siege on the diving board. All right, let's jump on into some SWFL action as training camps have started to begin in more fervor here this week. But the big question mark that I've always wondered about is camp holdouts, and the biggest one, if we have one, if you can call it that. One, Jordan Love has said that he is not going to um, practice until he has an updated contract. He's not holding out. I believe he's still there. Meanwhile, Matthew Stafford did report after his contract had some adjustments made to it. So, Jason, good or bad? Is it a good look for these teams to have or for players to hold out for camp? Do you think it has any benefits at all?
Absolutely not. I don't understand it whatsoever. I understand you wanting your money, but you're being a distraction in the team. And more importantly, but if you're a general manager or an owner, how are you feeling confident or comfortable saying, yeah, I want to give my money to this guy when he's creating a media circus and a distraction, not even reporting at camp because he wants his money? Yeah, we all want our money. Get in line. We if we're taking a look at CeeDee Lamb, he's a top 3 wide receiver in football after what he did last season. He's going to get his money. Dallas is in the midst of pushing Philly for the NFC East. Are you really that concerned about your next payday when you have a playoff berth in line with your head coach on the hot seat down in Dallas? The Jets have a similar issue with Hassan Reddick. They're trying to push for a playoff berth.
I
Jordan
kind of
Love, I
think, yeah.
kind of understand because it's the quarterback position and they're getting the most money. Like I don't think there's a world where Daniel Jones should be paid more than Jordan Love.
Well,
But again,
so
you don't hold out.
okay, on the Daniel Jones part, you can't really blame Daniel Jones for the Giants being idiots and deciding to give him big money. But here's the thing, Siege, I almost called you Siege, Jason, that it works. This is what works, man. This is how players get paid. Because if you are going to show up and the best ability is availability. And the flip side to that is if a player wants his money, the best way to go about it is to not be available for a team, like you said, let's go with the Dallas Cowboys and CeeDee Lamb, that most definitely need him. Now, is it a great look to not even report? No, it's not. But we've seen this is part of business. And if you don't like the idea that professionals who want to make their money, first off, telling CeeDee Lamb, Jordan Love to get in line is a bold proclamation. But you deserve the opportunity to have the amount of money that you feel is fair for you, and I believe that these players have the right because the way that the SWFL system is built is not player friendly. This is not the SWBA. The percentage of league revenue does the majority does not go to the players. There are financial pieces in place where deals are hardly ever fully guaranteed, if at all. And then on top of that, you have the franchise tag, which completely inhibits player movement. These guys, on top of all that, have a extremely short or playing window in which to quote unquote, to quote Jason, make their money, get in line. They deserve the opportunity to make as much money in the shortest amount of time that they possibly can. Because, as we've seen with Le'Veon Bell, the moment you are out the door, you are out the door. Now, was Le'Veon Bell's holdout necessarily effective? Obviously not. Not all of these are, but more often than
Very
not,
clearly not.
players end up getting their money so long as they have the appropriate understanding of where they're going to go, what amount of money they deserve to make, and what the market actually says. If you read the market, you're CeeDee Lamb, and you're seeing the type of money that big wide receivers are getting, you're looking there and saying, I deserve that type of money too. I have no problem with him holding out. So long, my caveat to that is show up to camp. Don't practice, go the Jordan Love route. It's going to be reported as a negative, but I promise you in camp, none of the other dudes on that roster with their star quarterback not practicing are like this freaking jerk. He can't even practice with us. No, they're saying he's a top, what, a 15 quarterback in the league. Get him some money and let him get paid.
Yeah, of course. I'm all for letting these players get paid. But let's think about the biggest offseason, I would say, extension trade saga, and that's Brandon Ayuk down in San Francisco. He reported a camp, and he hasn't got his money yet. John Lynch said he was confident they're going to get a deal done. That's not particularly encouraging, Marsh.
That's
But he
not
but he still
encouraging to hear
reported a
a
camp.
general manager say they're confident that they're going to get a deal done.
I don't think it's encouraging for Brandon Ayuk because Brandon Ayuk's been negotiating with them for 6 months now.
Right, but just because you've been negotiating for 6 months doesn't mean that there's not you have to factor in the urgency of it all. Now Ayuk has actually said, hey, I'm going to come in and play, and these are the things that I want. We're actually talking. But during the summer doesn't matter. Negotiations in the summer don't matter because there's no immediacy necessary. There's no game coming up. There's no season on the line. During the off season, any type of contract negotiation is bogus because it's just there's no timeline that they have to stick to.
Yeah, I do agree. I do think CeeDee Lamb deserves top three wide receiver money. I think Jordan Love deserves top 10 quarterback money because he's so young. I think they're going to get their money. But I think there's better ways to go about it than stepping away from camp. The
In a
season starts in a
world
month.
in a world in which
All hands on
an
deck.
injury ends things for you, I have no issue with a player not wanting to play a game that he's not getting fairly compensated for at that moment in time. All right, let's move on to somebody who is very much fairly compensated as the Jacksonville Jaguars extend cornerback Tyson Campbell. He is now the highest paid non-Pro Bowl cornerback in SWFL history. Your thoughts? Good signing, good extension, bad extension? Where do you go with it?
I think it's a building block move for the Jacksonville Jaguars. They already brought back Trevor Lawrence this offseason. They brought back Josh Allen. I think this is just the Doug Peterson, Trent Baalke Jags trying to keep a very important building block of this team in Jacksonville for the long term. Tyson Campbell was great 2 years ago. Yeah, he was a little bit rough last year, but he's still super young and has been a really good player since being drafted in the second round. There's a reason he was drafted so high. There's a reason he is the best player in that secondary right now, him and Andre Cisco. But Tyson Campbell has a new defensive coordinator coming into town in former Falcons lead man Ryan Nielsen. And Ryan Nielsen did great things with AJ Terrell. He did great things with that Falcons secondary. Jesse Bates looked incredible last season. So I have hope that he's going to have a bounce back year and he's going to end up being worth this money. Yeah, it's 19 million per season. But with the new cap and the new SWFL cap hits, you're not paying. Think about what you're paying him while L'Jarius Sneed is making similar money. Like you bring your guys back. You have the money to spare. I like this move for Jacksonville. They're in a good spot, and I think that they will be competing for a playoff berth in the AFC again. I don't know if they're going to push Houston for the division, but I think they can. I think a lot of teams are counting out both Jacksonville and Indianapolis because of how good they think Houston will be. And I think that's a little bit of blasphemy because I do love Houston, but that is a very competitive division.
Well, there's no one over on this side of the microphone that's counting out Jacksonville. Let me tell you right now. Is Tyson Campbell the sixth best cornerback in the SWFL? Maybe not. But is this a positive move in general for Jacksonville? Yes, because they have had since the not exoneration, the exodus of their elite defense back from 2016, I believe it was, when they made it to when they were a quarter away from beating Tom Brady and New England on the road in the AFC Championship game. They haven't had people on defense outside of Josh Hines Allen who have been worth bringing back on extensions. And the fact that they found one in Tyson Campbell, is he again overpaid? Maybe, maybe. To your point, the contracts or the salary cap should continue to rise. So that number is going to obviously not be as impactful tomorrow as it was today. But again, having a player that you feel confident enough to say, here's 53 million guaranteed. Here's a 4-year deal. Probably, I would assume, based off the numbers, you're probably looking at like the first 3 years are like the actual deal. Fourth year, probably completely unguaranteed, which is fine. And I don't see an issue with that. You're bringing in a guy that you feel confident can be one of your two starting corners. Is he your number one? He's going to be by default probably right now. Is he probably their best? Yes, he is. But is he going to be elite? It doesn't matter because you found a guy that's competent enough at the position that you feel comfortable that you can build around. And on top of that, he's exceptionally young. He's what, 23
He's
years old?
24 years old.
24 years old. So all the better on the upside for him to get the money now, but also to lock in a player at a rate that is on par with what you want to pay your corners for a team that needs to have building blocks. Because let me tell you what, that secondary last season was atrocious. They got torched constantly. Tight ends would destroy that secondary. So they need to have more consistency and more talent in there, and maintaining Tyson Campbell on a deal that if you don't look here and say, oh, it's a great deal for the team or oh, it's a great deal for the player, it's just a good deal then for both sides. If neither side's really winning, then I think you're doing a good job. All right, let's head on to SimWorld U, where we are just a couple months away from tip off in a repeat attempting season for the Miami Hurricanes. And one name we haven't heard too much from lately is Kevon Jackson. So, JK, I'm curious, your thoughts. We've kind of done the dunk god in Miami piece, but how do you think Kevon Jackson and the Miami Hurricanes are going to fare next season?
I think that the possibility of this Miami team running it back is legitimate, is very live, very well, very legitimate. They brought in Richard Hennessy, an absolute beast down low. They have Kevon Jackson. I think Kevon Jackson has real player of the year aspirations next season. Everybody's talking about Cooper Flagg or Joffett Towns down in Missouri, where it's like trouble in Missouri. But Kevon Jackson on a winning basketball team down in Coral Gables could be the player of the year. I think it's real. I think they very well can make basketball Bedlam's Final Four again. I think they can make the national championship. If they're cutting down those nets down in April, I won't be surprised. However, they do have an uphill battle in the ACC. Both Duke and North Carolina are going to give them real trouble. And that's why I wouldn't be shocked if they even place third in the ACC, Marsh.
Well, I'm not too high on North Carolina. I know they haven't added really a ton of great talent that jumps off the page. I think there's some good talent there. Their freshman class, Kasim Porter Jr., Kadarius Stack Jr., Sean Hyman. It's a fine class. I'm not very bullish on North Carolina, but that's not who we're talking about. To Kevon Jackson, player of the year, I think it's going to be tough for him to pull that off just because of the roster he's got. Jermaine McElmore was the best player on that team, and that includes Dominic Bianco last season. I think it's going to be very fascinating to see how they navigate this group. If it's going to be Jermaine McElmore, do you play Kevon Jackson alongside Bianco and Edgar Fernandez? I do like the addition of Richard Hennessy because they had a great ability last season with a Chai inside next to McElmore. So to add another big man to essentially play that same role and continue to allow McElmore to be kind of a stretch four, more athletic four, I think is a great move for them. But for Kevon, I think he's falling into a spot where immediately he does not need to be the number one guy with the basketball every single time down. You've got Fernandez, you've got Bianco. That I think is a huge positive. You don't rush a player, and I'm not saying he's not capable of it, but now you have him in a chance where he can operate more off ball. He can be a cutter. He can be a secondary operator with the basketball. Not that he's not capable of being primary, but with his athleticism and his downhill speed, getting him rolling not on ball every single time is going to unleash a part of his game that I don't think we were able to see too much at the SimWorld prep level. Again, with the addition of McLemore or the return of McLemore and Hennessy, you also have plenty of opportunities for Jackson to operate in the pick and roll, in some two guard actions with Bianco and or Fernandez. I thought this was a great signing from Miami in general and a great spot for Kevon Jackson in terms of you've got the high value of being the defending champions while also being not necessarily the number one guy. Jermaine McLemore was the Basketball Bedlam Final Four most outstanding player. So all of that to say, the landing spot perfect, the player fit perfect, the opportunity perfect. I'm looking forward to seeing Kevon Jackson in Miami. All right, that's our show. We're coming back tomorrow, Wednesday, the 25th, with some more talk on the SWFL as training camps continue to roll in, as we mentioned. Maybe a little bit more of an Olympic preview, as that'll be beginning on Friday. So thanks for tuning in. Jason, thanks for joining here on SimWorld today on SimWorld TV, the only place you can see the game, be the game.